Perfect, guys. My apologies for that. Yeah, so I've put this in here today, and if we look at the slides that I intend to use, so we are looking at moving beyond ethicality and things like that, and I just want to go to there, the idea of ethics and commenting, and then the impact it has on these elements. Was it right for Trump or the Trump administration to expel Rasul? And it's an opinion, it can be right or wrong. Or should he have known better? Should he have known better? Because here is an individual that knows he's in a country run by an individual with an ego the size of a mountain, and then goes and comments about the person's leadership style and is then surprised when gets kicked out of the country. Or when it comes to ethicality, is it important? That's it, Sue. I think that's my comment. I mean, I can't say it as well as that. You should have read the room. I think it's important that you stand up for your ethics and your ethicality. But when you look at the next slide, you have a responsibility to those areas. I mean, affected by that particular comment, in addition to the individual himself, is the idea that as stakeholders, as people who vote and who are citizens of this country, we have a stake in those kind of comments, because all of a sudden our preferred trade agreements with America are starting to crumble. And we can't keep hoping that China and I hate Russia, but Russia will bail us out. And then you have a party line, and I don't know, where is that? Then you have a party line where the idea that please just be careful what you post. Please remember, read the room. I love that comment. Read the room. These people, the ANC Secretary General, Snooki Zikalala, go and post stuff from a political perspective, criticizing an administration that's already run by a despot, somebody whose ego is very fragile and who believes in the rightness of his actions. Surely, if you are that silly not to read the room, you should not be in that position. However, there are times that you comment, but you've got to do it right. Go, Thando.
Yeah, Doctor, I hear what you're saying, but then at the end of the day, we all have a freedom of speech, hey? And if you feel like something is not going well, then you might as well just voice it out and then see what happens. So if you are voicing it out and then this happens, then it might as well just happen. And then we just take it from there as a country, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and was it said because it's his opinion, and did he consider the stakeholders? Because just with AGOA being cancelled, guys, I think 25% of our AIDS funding, HIV/AIDS funding, disappears. Go ahead, Thando.
Yeah, as much as we depend on them for our AIDS funding, but then they also depend on our minerals to survive. So if they're gonna restrict that from us, and then we might as well just cut our minerals as well. So I feel like it's a
lose-lose situation, boy. You agree? It's a lose-lose situation. There's no win-lose in this.
Yeah, it's a lose-lose situation, because even them, without our minerals, they don't have iPhones that we're using. We don't have laptops because they do need our minerals. So it's a lose-lose situation. We need each other.
Yeah, it's a disturbing trend. And this approach to managing conflict and this approach to dealing with a person we know has a couple of screws missing. It's disturbing. I think sometimes there are diplomacy matters that need to be measured better or managed better. I don't know. I'm not the best person to talk, and I'm now recording myself, so I've got to be very careful what I say. But I sit in meetings with management, in particular for online, where if they say stuff I disagree with, I voice my opinion and voice my opinion vociferously. And yeah, not always favored, but sometimes in my mind, there's a line between right and wrong. So I don't know whether I'm the right person to comment on Rasul, because honestly, some of the stuff that I've said in meetings, I should have been fired years ago. Go, Tando.
Oh yeah. One last thing, Doctor. Um, Sorry, no, I just forgot what I was gonna say. I just want to say it like perfectly because it's so interesting debating about this. Um, you can say such things if you have an alternative option. For example, we know that we can run to bricks, but then obviously for people like change is not anything that's easy. Like it takes time for people to accept change. So that's why people are a bit scared of like jumping from the dollar to a bricks currency. But then it has to happen. Like we need to start from somewhere because it's been ongoing for a very, very long time. So if we can't like um get ourselves off American grid and go to bricks, and then we're still going to suffer the same things that we're going through. So yeah, I feel like it's a great move from
I
China.
think it's frying pan into the fire for me, boy. The BRICS currency to me is going to cause us to become very poor. But it's those not great options. Yeah. Go for it, Tando. Or do you disagree with me on that one?
No, not that I do disagree with you, but then obviously there
Hey, you're
are
most
a lot of
welcome to
uncertainties.
disagree. You're most
there
welcome
are
to
there are a lot
disagree.
of uncertainty as when it comes to BRICS. But then the Chinese have shown us like Haval is taking over the country, G2 is taking over the country. No one could have ever thought that we'd be leaving BMW, Mercedes-Benz, VW for those kind of brands. So I feel like taking a step forward is something that we needed as a country, and we need to trust ourselves. Not that it's going to be easy, but then it's going to be worth it for the future generations, I guess.
Yeah, it's an interesting aside, and it is an interesting opinion. And yes, I think we must understand that China are not here for our benefit. They're here for their benefit. Please don't believe China is this altruistic nation that is here to make our lives better. I can tell you now, China is the next colonizer, and we've seen evidence of it because I think we know how bad colonization's been, colonialism was. I think they're a form of colonists. So there's a lot, and you're right, Johnson. It's these kinds of things that we have to debate. And also remember, Trump is only there for 4 years. Now, I know a lot can be done in 4 years to destroy, but you have to also realize moment in time stuff. Having said that, guys, let's bring this back to organizations. And thank you so much for that, Tondo. I mean, some really good points. And the emotions is the real issue. You can argue on fact, but you cannot argue on emotions. Telling Zelensky you're not wearing a suit is an emotional thing. Look at his argument points. Yeah, there's lots happening, guys. I think if you see that the vice president's wife is now going to Greenland, and they send these people to Greenland because he is planning on annexing Greenland, yet another sovereign nation. Wants Canada to be their 51st state. So maybe we did the right thing by doing what we've done. There is a fine line between the future of the country and the destruction of a country. Having said that, let's move on. So, guys, in terms of social responsibility, which of your companies have really good social responsibility initiatives? And remember, if you look at this, I don't like that stakeholders, it should be shareholders, but I'm not going to worry about it. Yeah, what are the kinds of things you do as part of social responsibility initiatives? I know, for example, at the campus that I work face to face, we have significant links in the community. We have links in terms of the natural environment. We've just recently run a water conference. I've written an article on water and its role in South Africa, and then also contributing significantly to selected charities, to selected groups that we support. And then obviously ShopRite, yeah, oh Thando, it's so wonderful. And those soup kitchens are fantastic, Bianca. Of course it counts, because remember that, and you guys will remember this from your third year studies if you did this with Varsity College, it is the triple bottom line. This should be shareholders. I don't know why the textbook uses the term stakeholders, but I'm not going to worry about that. That should be shareholders. That should be the natural environment, and that should be the sort of social component. People, planet, profit. Remember? Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about there, Bianx, is definitely the natural environment. So people, planet, profit, and it's very much planet. To also just say, in terms of people, planet, profit, the stuff that we've done up to here, in fact, would be the next element. So we see now that it's people, planet, profit, purpose. So the idea of governance and ethics has made it into the broader definition of social responsibility. So all the things we've done in this chapter previously is now connected in the purpose part of people, planet, profit, purpose. So when we look at your responsibilities, it is always going to be your stakeholders. Here, initially your shareholders. I don't know why this textbook is yeah, I changed the definition slightly, because the natural environment for me is a shareholder. And then also social component, communities that we operate in is a key element in terms of our focus. If we look at companies that are really good at it, the one that always stands out for me is this one. I just think they are the gold standard, if that's the right term, in terms of social responsibility. I must look at some of the specials while I'm here. But if you go here, oh golly gosh, if you go there, you'll see a lot of evidence of people, planet, profit. So people, this is planet, this is planet, this is people and planet, and again, planet. And you can see the areas that they're involved in. It is a wonderful example of what social responsibility and sustainability could be and how those link together. It is, for me, the best example in South Africa of each of these elements. But you can see the people component, the social component, and all of this is underpinned. And when you look at their reporting, it's a clear indication of the importance of shareholders and other stakeholders as well. The textbook, I don't like the way I've got it, but we study what they give us. So in terms of the stakeholders, obviously shareholders, employees, etc. Natural environment, for me, the natural environment is a key stakeholder. We have to find ways of turning the corner in terms of, yeah, I want to say global warming, but people say there's global cooling, which is ridiculous, but climate change. There's enough evidence of climate change. We have every year a new record being set in terms of being the hottest year in the history of recorded history of the planet. So every year we break that rule. I mean, we have aspects of the South Pole now appearing where people thought it was ice cut, it was a block of ice, islands, and the concern is that 2 years ago, the average temperature in the South Pole was 23 degrees, which is very pleasant. So we see sea levels rising as a consequence of ice caps melting. We see massive icebergs float into the ocean, causing problems for ships and disrupting shipping lanes. So we see all these things happen, and then you have the naysayers. Yeah, again, I'm being recorded, but no one else listens to this. I have a colleague who suggested I don't talk about climate change and global warming. Not that I want to call it global warming, because apparently there's global cooling. There's evidence of global cooling. So I tend to just think, yeah, also as a Trump supporter, which is deeply concerning. Guys, and then the sort of impact that we have on communities. The thinking is that organizations are so immensely wealthy. If we look, and I hope I haven't shared this detail, I lecture so many subjects, but if we look at the top 100 wealthiest economies in the world, the 2/3 of them, 66, are big businesses. Let me just say that again. If we look at the top 100 wealthiest economies in the world, 2/3 of them are big business. So what has happened is there is this expectation from stakeholders that we've made you wealthy, customers, employees, we've made you wealthy, so we now want you to give something in return. This is non-negotiable. Social responsibility, sustainability, looking at least after people, planet, profit, and purpose is non-negotiable for businesses. So if we look at the organization stakeholders, remember, those are individuals who, in terms of the definition, it's a silly definition, who are affected by the organization directly and indirectly. We rely on those people rely on us. So if you're an employee, you rely on the organization to give you decent working circumstances, decent job design, and a decent salary. But also the expectation is that you'll give us your time, energy, effort, and skills in return for what we provide. And then just also from a customer perspective, we expect quality, we expect value for money, we expect service. And in return, we buy stuff from an organization. So it's this mutually beneficial relationship that we hope will exist. And I think, yeah, they claim that it's the task environment. Remember, the task environment will always be your what we call industry environment, or you would know it as the market environment. So they see the market environment as being the task environment. So if we look at this, I'm not going to go through all three, but generally it is those three that we focus on. Any comments about any of those that would surprise you if you had to be presented this at a model in an organization, as a model in an organization? It's a real extended model in terms of this. Foreign governments, universities, and if you investigate it, most of those are indirect stakeholders. So a university is not going to be a direct stakeholder, but those are the places we fund. So in future, we can inherit employees who are hotshot from them. So we see organizations fund research. Courts, yeah, again, indirect. And then, yeah, trade unions, etc., included in that. And it is a different view on it. I mean, the key ones are those three there. So in terms of our areas, yeah, the natural environment and treating the natural environment with respect. Again, when I go here and I'm going to look at that, Woolworths focus on net zero. Now, net zero means that you add zero carbons through your organization's operations to the environment. Now, there are lots of companies that claim to be net zero, but when you investigate closer, it's often, and you guys would have heard this term last year, greenwashing, where we paint over the cracks and we present this ideal picture. Realistic to say that we can get to net zero carbons by 2040, Woolworths? Still 15 years away. The truth is we've seen significant, yeah, their packaging is an issue, Sue. Yeah, Bianx, I agree. But in terms of some of the stuff that they've done, they definitely have moved towards getting electric delivery vans. Again, the electricity will come from solar power. Most of their stuff is served by solar power. Their challenge is plastics. It's always going to be plastics, but we know that we've got plastics that are being designed that will degrade within the natural environment. Yeah, this one is not far away, so you can clearly see the idea that they will have renewable sources. Their renewable source is solar. Most of their companies are now already powered by solar. And then other bits and pieces. And this is where it's important. Their packaging, reuse, repair, recycle. I think their first significant move to reduce carbons was their move to get rid of their plastic packets. Now, I think the reality is most of you have more Woolworths bags than you would ever need. Is that a fair comment? And somehow I quite like my Woolworths bag. I mean, it serves many. I carry it with pride as well. I often leave it behind, so I've decided I'm going to leave in my will to my kids because honestly, I have so many additional bags for some reason I sometimes forget. But I think it's a good way of showing that as customers we have a role to play in sustainability. Guys, yeah, this transparent, traceable supply chain, it really is about not getting from suppliers that have questionable links. And I mean, whether it's coffee, I mean, it doesn't matter what the specific background is. They can see exactly which communities have been involved in providing them with inputs. And then this one, yeah, I think already started in terms of the Woolies bags. And that Woolies bag, you can do it for anything, use it for anything. This December, we had 4 Woolies bags filled with sand to hold down the pegs to our canopy for the beach. So you must know these things are versatile. And then just in terms of that, the focus on the different things. I love you. It's well worth. Cheers, Tando. Oh my gosh. Sorry, man, Tando. Have a good one. Hey.
Okay,
So,
thank you very
guys,
much, guys. Have
cheers,
a good
but
one. Thank you. Bye.
okay. Very, very important to look at each of these guys because it shows you what can be done from an organization's perspective. So the natural environment, obviously, we have to reduce our carbon footprint as individuals. I think carbon negativity is still far away where we create organizations, and there are examples of organizations that are taking carbons out of the air and pumping it back into the Earth's core. I think it's Finland. You can look which country it is. And then communities and social welfare. I think the need in South Africa is so significant that we cannot imagine the kind of money that is required to address the basic needs of poor people. We have this massive divide between the haves and the never will haves. And organizations have started working in those particular areas. I think it's setting up, supporting not for profit, having a CSR link in your organization. I don't think organizations will ever be able to address the need in South Africa, but you have to start somewhere. Now, in terms of the arguments for and against, this is based around, and you guys can look this person's name up. It's based around Milton Friedman's writings. Now, Milton Friedman was a radical free market economist. He believed that the only duty of an organization is to make a profit. You don't have duties towards the natural environment. You don't have duties towards communities. You shouldn't be involved. In fact, being involved in social responsibility should be deemed illegal because you're not focusing on the core business of the organization, which is to make a profit. His argument has some sense because his thinking is if you only focus on making a profit, your profit levels will go up and all of a sudden you'd pay more taxes. And on the basis of paying more tax, you would then allow government to support social initiatives. Comments about that as an opinion? Sorry, this is the one, my apologies, I'm highlighting the wrong one. Comments on that as an opinion. I highlighted the wrong one. that the job of organizations is to make a profit. Not making a profit takes away from shareholders who are important to the organization and should be deemed illegal. But the more profit we make, the more taxes we pay, and those taxes can be used for social initiatives. Crazy argument? Any comments on that argument? Or is it naive?
Can
Go
I
for it.
comment?
Yes, of
I
course.
I think the theory makes sense in a functional state or a country. Whereas in our country, if you think in the taxes paid by the organization are going to be used by government to benefit organizations, then it's a far-fetched belief because we know that's not going to happen. I think it's in a functional state, yes, makes sense.
Yeah,
However, in reality, in terms of how a lot of states are set up and how governments are run, it does not work.
I agree with you. I think when we look at South Africa, since apartheid disappeared, since our democracy happened, we've had, and the estimate now is that government has lost 1.5 trillion through illegal, corrupt, and unaccounted for expenditure. 1.5 trillion. You can't, I mean, it is hell of a optimistic, as you say, Shelby. The truth is, organizations are wealthy. We've made them wealthy. They should give back. Now, even in functional governments, governments can never stretch to address all the needs. But in South Africa or in developing nations where corruption is standard, it is a naive view. It really is a naive view. Yeah, optimistic is another word. So the truth is, it is about dealing with conflicts of interest on this view, because, you know, if you are involved in social responsibility, you're taking dividends away from your shareholders, which is, again, very naive to think like that. And then, yeah, organizations lack the expertise, but that can be accounted where you have people who are devoted to social responsibility initiatives. I think I prefer this view, and the idea that we are citizens, that we have to be good citizens, that we have resources and skills that can help. I mean, imagine the skills that are vested in world-class organizations. Those skills are transferable to social responsibility initiatives. But for me, the reputational game will give more profit. So I like the idea of the virtuous circle, that the more you do from a social responsibility perspective, the better your reputation, the greater your profit levels, allowing you to again invest more in social responsibility, improving your reputation once again, and giving you more profits. It's a virtuous circle. It's a positive link between those. If you get it right, if you give it right. Give me examples of organizations in South Africa with bad reputations, whose reputations have been damaged, potentially beyond repair, but I never believe a reputation is completely damaged. Examples of organizations that reputation is shot. I mean, I'm going to start the ANC. Their reputation is shot. They can't even pay their staff. Eskom, their reputation is shot. Eskom, yeah, Steph. Telkom. Telkom is a joke. Why do we have Telkom? Why do we have the post office? And again, we back to these SOEs. Any others? Private businesses where the reputation has to be questioned. I often hear my students tell me Vodacom. I'm not sure about Vodacom. I don't deal with them at all. Or are they better than what I think? And you know, the fact is, Transnet is a shocker. There's been more corruption, guys. There have been illegal contracts allocated. Some youngster got 70 odd million because she has a link to somebody who is on the board of directors. KPMG shot, absolutely shot, and because of, you know, involvement with the Guptas, etc. There are lots of those that are around, and this, if you do good, you should actually get some sort of benefit from it. Those organizations need to fix themselves internally before this can even work for them. So in terms of that, I'm not going to go through that again. And then your approaches to, social responsibility. The obstructionist stance is very much the idea that Milton Friedman has, that your only job is for profits, and your profits can go to taxes, and the taxes can be used to support social issues. It's naive, it is dated, it's pre-1980s, that kind of view. This one, the defensive stance, is, sorry, I've got the slides here. Okay, little as possible. The defensive stance is you do enough to stay out of trouble. So you do triple B, double E to the minimum because that's the law. You make sure that you put smoke or filters on your smokestacks, all the things that will keep you out of trouble. You know, we've also got this wonderful Consumer Protection Act. You just do enough so that you don't have anyone from government knocking at your door. Again, it's a start, but imagine only doing what is legally required. My goodness me, you know, to tick boxes, this is way more than ticking boxes. And then, meets this idea, but goes beyond. Here is the one where every single organization worth its salt is at this stage. You are seen as a citizen, as part of a larger community. There is, oh gosh, and I don't really want to draw it now, but sorry, I have to draw so that Picasso can arrive, or whatever it is. But the current view of social responsibility and sustainability is as follows. Sorry, I'm drawing with my mouse at the moment. That the organization sits in the middle, that organization sits within a community, and sits within a community. Oh my gosh, should use the pen I bought, hey? Sits within a community, and that broader community sits within the natural environment. And if you think of social responsibility and sustainability in that way, it tells you the importance of why you need to look after the natural environment. We're embedded in terms of that. Why we have to look after communities, because they are important to us. And this organization is then linked that way. I love this theory. It's a newer one from Porter's. I don't know if anyone has seen that one before, that theory before. It's a wonderful view on sustainability and social responsibility. So here, there's this realization that we are part of a bigger picture and we are embedded in our communities. I mean, communities provide us with employees, with customers, etc. And all of this happens within the context of the natural environment. So we need to align our actions with each of those. Love that theory. Okay, guys, so in terms of what government does from a social responsibility perspective, so you can see securities has to do with trade, etc. Now, this is obviously an American textbook, but environmental protection legislation, give me examples of that kind of legislation in South Africa, specific pieces of legislation. What environmental legislation bits do we have? Come on, guys, somebody must work in that. So we've got laws around emissions. We've got laws, remember, in terms of vehicle emissions, we've got standards there. We've got laws in terms of pollution. We've got, and whether it is air pollution or water pollution. What other environmental protection things are there? Consumer protection. Remember, we have this wonderful thing called the Consumer Protection Act. Anyone ever tried to use the act to get companies to do what they're supposed to do? Consumer Protection Act, very quiet this tonight, guys. Yeah, and then we have, quite restrictive labor legislation from the Labor Relations Act, Skill Development Act. You guys know all of those. And then securities in terms of trading shares and our tax codes. Again, very clear what our marginal rates are. And then the other bits and pieces. I think government, as much as they provide those guidelines, the framework that the organization operates within, there are certain things that businesses can do. Now, in America, you call them lobbyists. Now, lobbyists essentially will target a particular politician, and that politician would then take decisions favorable in line with that industry's needs. And that's why, guys, you still have uncontrolled arms. I mean, it's more controlled than it is. But the firearm lobby is a powerful lobby in America, and that's why people walk through the city with ARs. I mean, I saw a video clip the other day of somebody walking through a town with an AR-15. And when the cop said to him, "What are you doing?" he says, "Well, it's my right to bear arms." It's a fully automatic rifle. I mean, come on. I mean, those kinds of ridiculous behavior is standard in America. But you have these kind of lobbyists who buy themselves a politician. You know, when you're putting millions into somebody's election, you want something in return. Why do we think Elon Musk has such power over Trump and Trump's decision making? Yeah, political action committees and then others, guys. Oh, gifts and other bits and pieces. I mean, where did you ever think that the White House lawn would be turned into a showroom for freaking cars, not even good cars? So we see this kind of behavior all the time. Yeah, in terms of regulation, yeah, we know what the laws are. And then also indirect. We see that tax incentives are provided if you establish a factory in our country. Also, I think it's the idea of building a skill set in terms of training centers. There are lots of those that essentially will still benefit the organization. Guys, and then just, yeah, lobbying, for me, that's where you buy yourself a politician. I mean, lots of examples of that. I find Musk's control over Trump quite strange, or Trump's reliance on Musk very, very strange. And you can see these kinds of things. So if we look at the options available, the first one, legal compliance, I think it really is about just sticking to laws. You have to do that. Otherwise, your CEO ends up in court and the organization ends up in court. I mean, the risk is too significant to ignore that. Do you think that organizations strictly adhere to all laws? Give me examples of organizations that have ignored legislation and just done their own thing. If you think of it, each one that you've mentioned has a very, very clear brief in terms of legislation and have not stuck to that brief. So it's ideal to think that organizations obey laws. I'm in Pietermaritzburg and we've got a company that constantly pollutes rivers. And you think, dude, how often can you get away with the same thing? Factories, I mean, Johnson, that is such a good example. I mean, where you bring people into your organization that can be exploited, illegal immigrants, and we still see that happening in South Africa. It's a wonderful example. Guys, and then ethical compliance. So here well, it is, Rowan, and the scary thing of VW is that they were lucky in South Africa that the emissions that were accurate, in fact, were less than what our minimum standard is. So they dodged a bullet in South Africa, but the minimum standard in Europe and America was a lot lower and resulting in billions of dollars in fines. And for me, what I find interesting is that VW survived that. That's the kind of thing that should have killed an organization. Why do you think VW survived it? Why do you think VW survived that? Surely that should have dented their potential to survive. I think it just shows you that the average customer couldn't care about the natural environment. Was that a bad assumption? Loyal customers. But surely a loyal customer should hold a company accountable. Bread price fixing. I mean, absolutely. Goodness me. I mean, yeah, we still see that kind of illegal behavior. My concern is that VW's customers cared less about their honesty than they cared about the brand. And it's a strange set of behaviors. And can I just say I was a VW customer for 30 years, so I'm the wrong person to comment. Guys, and then just here, philanthropic giving. Yeah, so we give funds to people. Varsity College, Maritzburg, we do it a lot. There are lots of money bits collected and handovers, and we've adopted several charities. Very impressed with what they do. So in terms of managing social responsibility, I think the first one is you have to have these in place. It has to come from your leadership. It has to be a tradition within your organization that we give back, that we value our stakeholders, that we value the natural environment, that we value communities. And then whistleblowing. Who would be brave enough to blow the whistle on this call now? Who of you would be brave enough to blow the whistle, to be a whistleblower? Now, remember, it's not illegal. We have the Protected Disclosures Act. If you saw illegal actions inside, yeah, Bianx, I think it takes serious guts to blow this whistle. If you look at the number of whistleblowers that have been killed in arranged hits, I think you have to be slightly brave or slightly silly. Well, that's it. You know, the idea of mpimpies, and I don't know if I've said that right. Can someone explain to me what a mpimpi is? Snitches and stitches. Well, snitches and bullets in this instance. What's an mpimpi? Yeah, yeah, I think so, Bianca, but it is true though. Guys, what's a mpimpi? Someone tell me quickly. Not all of you are English. Mpimpi, am I saying it that bad? That, gosh, I can't believe my pronunciation is that bad. Who wants to explain to me what mpimpi is? I might have misspelt it. Don't let me call out people who are Zulu and others. It's a snitch. Yeah, it's a snitch. It's bad to be a snitch. Yeah, I think it's very brave. Now, in ideal organizations, you should welcome people being whistleblowers because it shows you that here is an opportunity to fix what is going wrong. But in South Africa, well, you have to be silly or brave. Guys, and then how do we evaluate social responsibility? I think the key thing is it starts with your code of ethics, and we've spoken about the code of ethics, and I've shared an example of a code of ethics with you already. But the most important part of that code of ethics is that it has to live in an organization. Yeah, well, it is snitch at your own risk, unfortunately, but that's, Rowan, that's tough. Risk is when you get your head bashed in, not when you get shot in your head. I would imagine that's acceptable risk. So in terms of the code of ethics, that code of ethics should be something that lives in an organization, not just a piece of paper that people can put in their drawer and ignore. And then you do social audits, where you look at the role you've played in improving people's lives, in making a difference in communities, what you've done in terms of your natural environment impact. The key thing in terms of this, guys, is that you see modern reports. In the past, you used to have your annual financial statements come out. Now the report is an integrated report. And in that integrated report, there'll always be elements of profits and profitability, elements of your social impact, elements of your impact in terms of the natural environment, and governance elements. So there's been a significant shift as a consequence of the Companies Act and King reports to that kind of integrated report, that we don't just worry about finances, We worry about the bigger picture. Any questions, any comments? If you had to rate your own organization's social responsibility initiatives, and remember we